Live.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This is the August 24th, 2023 Board of Directors meeting. It is 9:30 a.m. and this meeting is officially in session. So I do believe that we are going to start with an introduction of our new board member with us today. We have Dr. James Johnson Jr. or Jim, as he is called, and we would like to welcome you. So, and because you're a new board member, now we get to assign you to a committee.
I looked at the other meeting. Saw that.
So I think that would be a terrific pairing. I would like to recommend that somebody make a motion to appoint Dr. Jim Johnson to the HR committee, and we can get him officially assigned.
So moved, Molly Jose.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your right hand. Aye.
Aye.
Abstain?
Aye.
We have one abstention. Are there anybody voting against it? Okay, well, welcome, Dr. Johnson, and you are now also an official member of the HR committee. So I do believe there's a slide that gives a little bit of the background information. I'm sorry, Jan, I flew by it pretty quickly. Maybe one more back. There we are. So Dr. Johnson comes to us very well credentialed, and we're very fortunate to have him as an asset to the board. Okay. Now we have 2 Inspire Awards, and I believe Tim Ford is here to present the first one.
Okay. So our award this month is for our crew from Hartford County. So one of the responsibilities we have for the county is to help assist them in code enforcement. We're not directly responsible for code enforcement, but we're basically the label. And there was a property that did not meet code, a lot of junk in and around the property that had to be cleaned up. It was owned by an elderly lady in Hartford County. And so when the crew responded, she was obviously in distress, not happy. These are her possessions, not a person's junk, a person's treasure. And the crew, rather than just going about their business, showed extreme empathy and support. They not only cleaned the exterior of the property, without having to enter the property, they removed material from the inside that she was going to let go. They bought her food and water. They replaced her door, which had been taken off at some point by emergency personnel. And so I think they truly exemplified the spirit of the community and how they responded. This is a great example of the type of people that MES hires and has out there in the community. I want to thank every one of them for that work. Welcome you up here for your award. I'll give you the names actually. I didn't do that. Janelle Johnson, stand up and say hello. Samantha Briggs, Danik Sankowitz, Steve Miles, David Dorsey, Fields Dunaway, and Tammy Scarborough. Well, that's it. So you have to get a photo of y'all. So come on, there you go. Thank you. Thank you. Come on over. Now,
Camera. Your name's after one. Thank you for making that hour and a half or 2 hours.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't tell you they had a flat tire on.
Oh, no.
Yes.
This is dedication.
Yes.
Oh,
See you at all.
That's good. That's
And then this way, and then right, and then in the middle. One minute.
First time somebody did this.
One, two, three. Claire, hold on. Thank you.
Make it to the Ironbird game in a couple of things.
Yeah,
September
please.
8th.
September 8th.
Yes.
We'll be there.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you. Our next award is going to be presented by Ms. Slatnick.
Sam's not here today, so I will accept this on his behalf, and there's a nice picture of him. So Sam is one of our environmental specialists that work out at BWI Airport. He was tasked with figuring out how to get the mowing done on the stormwater ponds. It's a little bit of a hairy situation because of course it's sloped and it's overgrown, and if we don't keep it trimmed up, we get birds in there and it becomes more of a nightmare. So Sam took the initiative to look at a remote controlled mower. My son would have loved to do this as well. We found this one, priced it out. Saves them from the bugs and the ticks and all that kind of thing. So we appreciate that Sam took the initiative here and got the mower, and I imagine they're all fighting over who gets to do it. So thank you, Sam, if you're watching.
Okay, and all of you have received copies of the July 27th, 2023 minutes. Had a chance to review them, and offer any suggestions or amendments if there is anything that should be amended. And if not, based on Robert's rules and absent any objection, we can deem the minutes approved. Okay, we have approved minutes. Per Robert's rules, you actually can vote on it, but you can absolutely abstain. We have more than enough votes to approve them, so, okay. Thank you. And we have the executive director's report, Dr. Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next slide. During the period of this expense report, I had no reimbursement expenses and one purchase card use. Really proud of that $19. I met with the Secretary of Appointments and at SIG St. Paul and had a great meeting. That is when I learned of our newest board members impending offer. And we had a great meeting where I gave her the MES services and solutions presentation, where she learned more about MES. I got to answer questions related to some of our projects. So it was a very fruitful meeting, and I believe it was worth the $19 to MES. I hope everyone agrees. Deputy Furketic, I was on vacation when Deputy Furketic attended the Maryland Municipal League Conference. That also was very successful. I know we had more than 10 leads result from that conference, and everything went well with MML. So those are her $194.96 expenses. So.
And Ms. Burkett did return from the Mako conference.
She
correct?
did return.
Okay.
She is on live. She is just keeping us from all getting up.
I'm here, Shelley. I'm here, just not, yeah. You don't want me near you.
Next slide. So, with attendance at Mako, and particularly with efforts going on now, pursuing three notices of federal opportunities. So there is a NOFO due at the end of September on reconnecting communities that I've pulled down. I've received it from MDOT. I am trying to find a facility partner in an EJ community, because if it is an environmental justice community on the federal maps, it is 100% federal funding. So even as the state and jurisdictions go through some evaluations of the funding that will be available in FY25, everyone likes free federal funds or federal funds to get a project done. So due to that NOFO and due to Mako, I basically had contact with practically everyone, all of the state agencies that we interact with on a regular basis. There's also a NOFO called Solar for All from US EPA. And I don't think I'm letting anything out of the bag. The state, through the Maryland Clean Energy Center, is going for $400 million, the highest amount that a state can receive for Solar for All. They're working on that. TESS is working on that actively to find out how MES can help with the state's efforts should the grant be won. And there's another that isn't due until the letter of intent is in November. The submission is due in February, and it is titled A Climate Ready Workforce. And I believe it's Commerce and another federal agency. Our larger appropriated sister agencies or county governments. So it's all about finding partners to submit with, and with the focus on environmental justice, so that MES doesn't have the 20% match for these federal funds for most of them. So it's really important to find other state agencies or county governments that meet the requirements, and then we can submit as a partner with them, and then do the planning, do the engineering, manage the contracts to make sure that we improve the state from an environmental perspective and meet our mission. So lots of context, lots of great work, really focused on government entities, next slide, but then a lot of private entities will support those efforts, and several of them have been engaged. I'm particularly proud of trying to engage, or not trying, I did engage with the Baltimore City NAACP with efforts for them to enhance some of the state's environmental justice efforts and communication to communities in the Baltimore City area. And that's it for those two slides. Next slide. There were a couple of outreach events in August. There were two, but I wanted to show this month the fall recruitment calendar. A year ago, we pretty much started with no coordinated recruitment program, but now between
go back over until I give you, okay, I'm not getting anything. Good morning. If you can hear us, we're having a slight technical difficulty. Just bear with us for just a minute.
As we lowered our vacancy rate, we did not also onboard people of color as frequently. So in an intentional effort, although I will be going to the Johns Hopkins recruitment events because it's my alma mater, but I will also intentionally engage with the 4 HBCUs in the state and Howard University to just engage with the HBCUs to see if we can get some interns next summer and get some applications for graduates. So Lee State's on there, haven't gotten one for Coppin State yet. Morgan State we're engaging with, and I'll be visiting University of Maryland Eastern Shore in late September, if at least to stay overnight in their hotel conference area, which everyone should try out. It's actually better than the hotel we stayed in Salisbury when we went to the baseball game last week. So anyway, so that I just want to show that this is I think critical to our vacancy rate. It's just something that we don't advertise. If you all know, we market to MML and NACO primarily, and some Port of Baltimore associations, but we do not advertise. So this is the best way, hopefully with the also word of mouth that the interns will take back to their universities, for us to engage with the education structure in Maryland. Next slide.
Where you go?
Oh, sorry.
Have a bad habit.
No, please do.
I don't see Anne Arundel Community College.
So we have a close relationship with Anne Arundel Community College. You do see Anne Arundel, I'm sorry, it's an acronym, Workforce Development Center, career fair. The Anne Arundel Community College actually, they're under contract with us to do our manager and supervisor training, which is every spring for 6 months. And we are actively engaged with their career offices, but I do not have an event there on the calendar.
So let me,
Other than Anne Arundel County, but
just for the record. so
Yes.
that I'm the director for the for 17 years, about 18 years, soon, but they're being very, very creative nowadays in terms of preparing students to go for the work. Not everybody's going to be the SW.
sure.
The second thing is I didn't hear anything about Hispanic type of groups, or whether or not we reached out to them also.
Yes, there's no outreach to Latino formed on this list. We have engaged with CASA in Montgomery County, Prince George's County before, but I will get back to you on that.
Okay.
Yeah, but thank you.
Anything that may be able to help you, let me know.
Well, definitely with Anne Arundel Community College.
Yeah,
We'll get on there. Thank you, sir. Next slide. So we had a great visit to Poplar Island after the Lieutenant Governor visited us on March 31st for celebrated Women's History Month with us. She fell in love with the terrapins. We should get some new hatchlings soon in our entryway. And she stated that she wanted to be there for the release. The Maryland Port Administration, of course, led this effort, and we supported them. And Lieutenant, this is a funny one. Lieutenant Governor Miller, Brian Miller, the acting MPA administrator, Deputy Administrator Bob Monroe, and Director of Harbor Development, Holly Miller, 3 Millers that we don't believe are related to each other, all joined us for the release, and along with other MPA staff and Lieutenant Governor staff. And we got a great little picture there, and she enjoyed it more and said she'd try to get the governor to go next year. So it was a great morning. She only had the time for the boat ride, a quick tour of the island for an hour, and the boat ride back, but we were happy to spend that morning with her. Deputy Freketic is right there. You see her with her collar popped up. I think you can see it. But it was a great trip and a great tour, as always, led by the environmental education group, Ms. Baker and her team, and the team at Poplar Island. So a great event. Thanks to all.
I would say that's a genuine smile on the Lieutenant Governor's
Oh,
face.
she
So
loves it.
it
She really.
looks as though she very much enjoyed herself.
Next slide. We were at the Delmarva Shorebirds. I had my family, after attending Mako, but not with me, but really just being in Ocean City and having fun and doing a lot of sun. I did not make it past the 5th inning, and I was very upset because the game was getting excited. But we were there, so I'm not in any pictures. We were there, staff were there, And we're really looking forward to our fourth and final tour of the minor league baseball stadiums, the Shorebirds, September 8th in Aberdeen. If anyone wants to join us in our section I did buy my ticket already, and I did see that we have about 30 sold, I would guess. So we look forward to that, and our folks from Hartford County will hopefully make the drive to Ironburst Stadium, and maybe we'll see Cal Ripken. Who knows if it shows up. Next slide. So a wrap up for the board for our summer intern program. It really did have an intentional beginning, middle, and end. And in the end, we had the 12 students present 5-minute presentations on their experience, what their plans were, and give us any comments on what they liked, what they disliked. And then they had a tour of Cox Creek, and they enjoyed the pink vests and the hats. And there was a comment on, they were one of the few groups that put everything back in its place as they were leaving. But so we're already going to, we have a few more interns that there's universities have not started yet. Well, I know mine is still here, but they're all leaving by the end of August. We do have some that were already graduates, and they are embedded in one of our clients' spaces. So that's positive. Even as our vacancy rate creeped up over 5% recently, and started hovering around 5 in the new fiscal year. We never counted the 12 interns, most of whom were billable. The 11 of them were, not 10 of them were in billable roles. And so they really helped out a lot. It was robust. They were uber talented. And we believe that we will gain employees from them, and we believe they will take the message back to their home schools. And when we go on all these recruitment events, there'll be that connectivity. The couple of them that are in Maryland, I invited them to attend the soccer games this fall or look for my family there. And it was a great program. So there will be an after action internally for what was good, what was bad, how we can improve this in September. And we will launch again and right at the start of January when they return for the spring semester or their winter session, so that we get another robust 100, hopefully we'll shoot for over 100 applicants for another 10 to 15 positions, and keep it rolling and have some return next summer. I know the executive office intern will be coming back in December, and we'll hire for part-time work in December and keep that connection. So it really was successful. I mentioned it to some other state agencies. And I mentioned our recruitment efforts to some other state agencies. One asked if they could join. I thought that would be, I don't think they can join us at our table because we pay a fee to every university to have our table. And the universities might say, well, why don't they pay their own $300 for the table? But I want to help them as we can with some of the best practice we've discovered in this space. So thank you to all of the interns. Thank you to all the mentors that hosted. Thank you to the committee that planned the events and support for them. And we'll improve upon what we did for next summer. Next slide. We finished our school supply drive for all those with kids in school. You know, we're getting ready either next week or the week after for them to go back. And we had over 300 items to give to needy kids in Anne Arundel County. So the bus was a great design by one of our interns, and finance and legal are right there in the back of the bus, making sure that we're the cool kids. Next slide. So Mako was the largest Mako. This is only my third, really, but everyone stated that it was one of the largest Makos in the history of the Mako Summer Conference. Some shade was thrown about Mako, but then even in that article from Maryland Matters, it threw a little negativity towards Mako and how many state government employees, county government employees are present. But you know, the outreach and the connection to the state agencies that are all in rows together, to the county officials that are our clients. We did have a mid-shore meeting that's a tradition mid-shore meeting at Mako. It's just an opportunity, you know, this whole thing with COVID and with teleworking and separation, there is something about being close to other human beings and serendipitously being able to solve problems and work on things together. So the booth display continues to get, the new booth display continues to get rave reviews, although one person commented that our TV was too small. I took that as a compliment. And Secretary McElwain, Secretary of the Maryland Department of Environment, continues to say that first Deputy Freketic and then me are her two favorite people. So that is her in the right picture. So in all of that, all of the context that I showed, and I had 12 personal follow-ups, not personal professional follow-ups from the conference. The teaming on some of these federal opportunities, some leads for that. I, in essence, told DGS that DGS doesn't really utilize our services for a lot of their legacy environmental pollution, both inside buildings and on properties. And I basically told them I'd try to find the federal funds to fix some of their brownfields. And they took note of that because of the fiscal issues that are approaching. And I'm going to be true to my word and work on it. So it was a great conference, no way about it. And the best part of the entire conference, I do not, as noted in that said article, I do not go to the parties and hang out all night with people. My family's is there. My wife has got a clock. It's almost worse than my regular day. But luckily they weren't there when Treasurer Davis was throwing his beach bash. And it felt like a family reunion with Treasurer Davis's 1,000 closest friends. So it was a great conference. We have a lot of follow-ups. And we'll be hitting every one because that's the form of marketing that we do, marketing promotion. So next slide. And in said Maryland Matters article, there was another picture of the Lieutenant Governor, but we had our own acting HR director, Shannon Betleon, captured in the photo with her Hollywood-esque sunglasses on. Her husband looking like he's ready to go home. And her two lovely children blocked by the Lieutenant Governor's fist and the woman she's counting up. So we had to throw that one in there just because we got it yesterday. We saw it yesterday. They're probably trying to teach kids how to open crabs. It was, it's all. So next slide. And my last slide is just to honor Mr. Jim Ruggiero. Mr. Ruggiero began
Ruggiero, yeah.
Thank you. Began his career with the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services in 1973 as a maintenance mechanic. He enjoyed the job, but unfortunately the facility closed in 1981. At that time, Jim joined MES as a maintenance supervisor working on water and wastewater facilities. He found the facilities very interesting and built strong connections with his coworkers. After 30 years, he decided to retire, but Deputy Freketic persuaded him to come back to MES working at Martin State Airport as a part-time employee. Deputy Freketic, I believe you described him as, I should let you do this, but I believe you described him as a pump whisperer to me.
Yes, he is definitely the pump whisperer. This man can make any pump work. We wanted him to come back. We hated the thought of him retiring and leaving us because he was so valuable.
So I don't think I have better words than that, but congratulations and many thanks to Jim for his 50 years of dedicated service to MES and the state of Maryland. And whether he's listening or not, whether he'll view it at times, I hope that we can give him a round of applause to thank him for his years of service. And Chair, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the new business report, which is formerly known as the agency activity report. And displayed is the list of proposals that have been accepted since the last meeting. Are there any questions? And I do have one question. I have to ask, what is the very top one, ocean placement? $1.3 million almost.
So NPA, our client, is keeping ocean placement as an option place for dredge material, although, not, and the Corps has us, in order to keep it an option, we keep monitoring it. We do some extensive monitoring every so many years.
Thank you. I just had to ask because it seemed like a very odd title.
Is that wolf trap too? Is that wolf trap? That's not wolf trap, it's just general.
Are there any other questions? And if not, Mr. Patel, take it away.
All right. I'll go on the other side because it is uninteresting stuff. The financial information, when I'm talking in the front, from the back of the head, it will be even worse. So here I am. Good morning. So what we have is the labor sales by group. Labor sales is our most important benchmark because we do earn the recovery of the overhead and fringe benefits based on the labor sales. So this is the first slide is our labor sales by group. The different colors, all 4 groups are there. This is July 31, which is the first year of fiscal year 24. We are very excited, new beginning, but at the same time, we were closing fiscal year 23, which is sometimes a stressful process. So we are presenting here the preliminary numbers, but for subsequent slides, you will see that the fiscal year 24, the first payroll in July was at the fiscal year 23 salaries, and the second payroll is with the new salaries, which is 4 to 5% increase, which is normal increase given to the employees. So, but the labor sales overall is 12.81% over fiscal year 23. However, it is 0.3% lower than the budgeted, which is a very small fraction of it. But as I say, the difference in salaries and all will be reflected in that. So we can go to the next slide, please. If you look here, the budget for full year is 39,849,000 in labor sales. Our labor sales for fiscal year 23 was 38,700,000. So our budgeted labor sales is higher, almost 5% higher than our actual fiscal year 23. And our employees, are always doing the best to meet or beat those targets. So whatever you are seeing here, budgeted full year, the increase in net assets, which is usually a net earnings, we are expecting as $4.1 million. But as I said that, in almost all categories, overhead recovery, overhead expense, fringe is not that significant. We will very likely exceed those amounts and do better than the bottom line of 4.1 million. If you see in the third column, based on the actual July 2023, we have projected the full year estimate for it should be fiscal year 24. Full year estimate of fiscal year 24 of 5 million. This is based on July only. And we are presenting that every month. And as the months go by, the estimate will be more accurate. But as you can see, we are already exceeding our budget and our goals already. Any questions so far before I go on the third slide? Okay. Let's go. So one of the most important things besides the labor sales increase because of the salary increases every year over year. But if you look at the second line there, billable hours, we have already increased in billable hours. That's where it comes from, the more project, wider scope of work. So we are already exceeding by 6,500, 6,000, almost 7,000 billable hours over last year, which is a very significant increase. It's about 7.37% increase. So billable hour increase is very significant, that we are getting more projects, we are expanding the scope of work of the existing projects.
But that's what you're saying, that you're comparing month with month.
Right.
So,
Right, yeah, so this is, as I say, very preliminary for, July. And once every month, I present this and then it gives you a better trend. But based on our history and what we did in fiscal year 23, our employees gonna do the best, to beat or exceed that. So we are pretty confident about that, Now, of course, there are circumstances that beyond our control may change it, but we will strive to achieve those billable hours and billable labor. The revenues are 342,000 less than last year. Revenues is not our significant benchmark because a lot of those revenues are passed through the third-party vendors and capital projects and seasonal nature of some of the work that we can do certain work in certain seasons and all that stuff. So revenues fluctuate. But 78, almost 76 to 78% is passed to the third-party vendors. It's just the pass-through revenues in there. So just want to highlight that the revenues are less than the last year, but it's just seasonal, and it may even get better than the last year. I think last year was one of the record, right? So, any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And next we have Shannon Bentley. Are you okay on that one? Yep. Bentley, yes. For the HR report.
As of today, MES has 738 active employees and 43 vacant positions, bringing the agency vacancy rate to 5%. It remains a priority to us to address these vacancies and to ensure that we have the right talent in place. And we are thrilled to announce that we have successfully closed several key positions. And additionally, we are approaching the concluding stages for several additional positions. Next slide. Then, Ms.
Go back for a second. So just for the board clarity, want to point out, we recognize that our number has crept over 5%. We do have onboardings planned. I have stressed to the executive team that after Labor Day, we will do a deep assessment on all of the positions that are still vacant, on hard to fill positions, and on things and what the pipeline looks like, the pipeline of the interviews, the advertised schedule, the interview schedule, and then the dates when people have. So we will do a deep dive in early September to make sure that we are on track back down. We did onboard 5 direct, 1 CBT, 6 yesterday. I don't know if that's reflected in this data. It's not. So we'll do a deep dive to make sure that we are meeting our target of staying at 5% below. So just wanted to put that out. Next slide.
And Ms. Hammer will give an update on the compensation administrative guidelines.
Good morning, everyone. Included in your packet today are newly revised and updated compensation administration guidelines. These were recently revised from old guidelines that were developed in 2006. The purpose of this guideline lays out the components, processes, and detailed information about MES's salary and compensation programs. It is the responsibility and intention of the executive director and the board of directors to administer compensation equity consistently and fairly within MES and to make modifications to these policies as necessary. MES will compensate competitively, transparently, equitably, and in alignment with our mission and strategic goals. I believe that these were given to you today so that you can take them home, review, and have questions. We would like to adapt and approve the compensation guidelines at the September meeting. Is that correct?
So there also, I believe that there's an HR committee meeting for September to go over the results for BEST. If there wasn't one, I would hope that the HR committee could be organized to both look at the numbers for last fiscal year and the BEST goals and the compensation administration guidelines. And I want to inform the board that we have let for new board members every 2 years, we are committed to doing a salary survey, compensation survey. And we did let that contract this month, Ms. Crosby, correct?
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago. And we do intend to have that executed and completed before the new fiscal year next year, with given the contractors' results, et cetera, but that is our intention. And this compensation administration guidelines updates the documents from 2006. It also includes all of, as an appendix, all of the career ladders that the board has executed over the last 18 months. And hopefully brings in line the spirit of what we're trying to achieve with our well-compensated staff that is also in balance with our clients' needs. So thank you, Mrs. Hammond. Question?
Yeah, something to maybe after the human rights meeting address. There are 4 cases where the board of directors is the approving group for something to happen. Why not the other opportunities for changes in salary and things like that? So what, I was looking at the bylaws to see whether or not the bylaws say you should do X, Y, and Z. It's not clear like that. And so I couldn't figure out what was the criteria for it, for the board of directors having responsibility for approving the 4 pieces that are in this document. It's not to be.
Yeah. There are provisions in the MES Act that require the board to approve certain components of the MES HR system. So, and then the board has adopted regulations for the agency, and there are some provisions in there. So I can lay that out for you prior to the HR committee meeting. So got that background.
Does anybody have the date and time of the next HR committee meeting? I'm just trying to look it up. It's okay. I know it's coming up. I just thought we could announce it. Okay. Any other questions about the administration guidelines? We will revisit this next month. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Amber. You're welcome. Thank you. Ms. Crosby, procurement. Yes. We have a number of items for us today.
Yes, they're both
Still the beginning of the fiscal year. Is that what's going on? Yeah. We have a lot of it.
They keep coming. Okay, good morning, everyone. Item 1 before you is for the environmental operation group. This is to purchase a mobile grinder. The company is GT Mid-Atlantic, the awarding for $606,056.38.
Okay, so for procurement item number 1, are there any questions? If not, we can entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
We have a second. Any other questions? Will anybody be abstaining? Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, unanimous approval. Item number 2, Ms. Crosby.
Item 2, also for the environmental operation group. This is for the Hartford County Solid Waste Management System. This is repair replacement 1,000 feet of Gabion stormwater, swelled stormwater at the Hartford Waste Disposal Site. The awarded company is Lands Contracting LLC. The amount is $373,000. And there's an MBE goal on the contract of 6%.
We'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move approval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Will anybody be abstaining? All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is for our environmental dredging and restoration group. This is for the Masonville Dredge Material Containment Facility dike rising project. This was a competitively sealed bid. The awarded contractor is Allen Myers of Maryland, Inc. The amount of the contract is $25,575,000. The MB goal on the project is 29%.
Excellent. Quite a big difference between the low bidder and the next bidders. We can entertain a motion for approval.
So
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do you have any questions or will anybody be abstaining?
I'm sorry, I have one question. Why is there such a difference between the low bidder and the other two bidders?
I can't exactly answer why. They just put a more competitive bid. We did an analysis of the bids and one of the items. Forgive me, I don't have it. I mean, I have it right in front of me, but I don't have it memorized. I believe the structural fill was a lower price than the others. And that's like 210,000 cubic yards. So if they're very competitive on that makes a big difference overall. And the fact that they might have a source somewhere of because this is fill that they're bringing in, they're still required to meet our specifications. So we're covered.
Okay, thank you.
What was the engineer's estimate? Was it, you can't say, or,
I don't like to say it.
okay. Okay, I'll have to ask you.
But I can give you anything you want.
No, I'm not, don't do it, don't do it now, I'll ask you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I did have a question. Can folks hear me in the room?
Yes,
All right. So it says here at the end of the remarks, the storm drain project is not included in this contract. Is it going to be included in a subsequent contract or what does that refer to?
I believe that's part of like MPA engineering. It's just not included. I can get more information on that. I don't know exactly, to be honest, but it's definitely not part of this.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Crosby. Number 4.
Item 4 for wastewater engineering division group. This is for the Camp Freda wastewater treatment plant improvements. The awarded contractor is HR Construction LLC, also known as M2 Construction LLC. The amount of this award is $3,490,200 with an MBE goal of 20.13%. There is a protest pending on this project.
I have a question.
Are we allowed to take up a contract when there's a protest?
Yes, under the MES procurement regulations do not have a provision that would prevent the board from approving of the procurement, even though there is a protest pending.
And when are they protesting?
It's a bid protest based on, they are alleging a mistake in the MBE submittals by the low bidder.
Good question. Okay, we can entertain a motion.
Well, I'm sorry, I have one more question. If the board approves this, does the protest go away?
No, the protests still must be acted on. So it basically will temporarily hold up the final award to the low bidder if the protest is overturned. If the protest is sustained, then the agency will have to come back to the board and ask for approval for a higher bid amount or higher contract amount.
So it's basically what we're approving is approval with the contingency of the protest being resolved.
But does that say that on the, I just wondered if there should be some language in there saying contingent on the protest being resolved. I mean, I have my Board of Public Works hat on right now, so apologize.
Joanna, we have an item on this that's going to the Board of Public Works where we do have a comment in the remarks section about the protest. It's just that we wanted to bring this here now because we want to get this thing awarded in September if at all possible.
Okay.
So should there be any language about a contingency approval, or are we okay to move forward?
It will be noted in the minutes.
Okay.
That's addressed.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
we will entertain a motion. Anyone?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Are there any other questions, or does anybody need to abstain? Okay, and I will take a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, approved. Thank you. Ms. Hattie,
Okay.
Ms. Crosby.
Yes, item 5 is for the Administrative Safety and Environmental Compliance and Human Resource Group. This is the purchase of medical service for employees physical. This is a competitive seal proposal. The awarded contractors, Occupational Health Center in Southwest PA, also known as Concentra Medical Center. The amount of the contract is $283,652. And the contract has 4 additional option years with an MBE goal of 5%.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion,
So moved.
Second.
and we have a second. Are there any questions?
I just want to, the amount is 238,652.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Will anybody be abstaining? Okay, if you would like to vote in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous approval. Thank you. Number 6.
Item 6 is for the Environmental Operation Group. This is for the Montgomery County Yard Trim Hauling project. This was a competitively sealed bid. The contractors Consolidated Commercial Service LLC. This is a change order to an original contract The change order amount is $735,000, bringing the total revised contract to $2,015,075. The MB goal for this project is 30%, and the contractor is currently achieving 22%.
Like to entertain a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Here, are there any questions? Will anybody be abstaining? Okay, if you are voting in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous approval. Number 7.
Okay, 7, for the Environmental Operation Group. This is for the Eastern Correctional Institution, the cogeneration plant to overhaul steam turbine generators. This is a sole source contract. The awarded contractor is Siemens Energy Inc. The amount of the contract is $1,215,860.23, plus an 8% contingency of $1,125,796.51.
We can entertain a motion for approval.
Do we want to clarify on this ECI funding that this approval automatically includes the resolution requirement that the board approved, and we have already. So let me just go and explain. So this is from the ECI contingency fund, and the original resolution that this fund was established that if you want to spend any money from this fund, it requires board of directors approval and the approval from DBM. We have sent the letter to DBM waiting for that approval, but when you approve this procurement, it will be considered automatic approval for a resolution to use the contingency fund.
Thank you.
And to clarify the amount, the 8% contingency is included with the proposal amount. So the total amount of the award is 1.2.
Sole source because this is the only vendor who can replace this. The OEM vendor.
What was that last part? I couldn't hear that.
The original equipment manufacturer is the vendor.
Oh, okay. So this is a Siemens generator.
Yep.
Okay.
Through acquisition, yes.
Okay, we can entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any other questions? Wonderful. Anyone abstaining?
I'm gonna abstain from this.
Okay. Mr. Botts is abstaining for the record. Okay, for all of you who are intending on voting in the affirmative, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Item is approved. Number 8, Ms. Crosby.
Okay, number 8 is for the Technical and Environmental Service Group. This is for the Howard County floodplain mapping assistance program. This is from our GIS Associated Service Shortlist contract. The awarded contractor is WSP USA Environment and Structure Inc. The amount of the award is $433,082 with a goal, the ME goal of 16.2%.
Okay, we can entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Judge Smokin. A second.
Second.
Wonderful. Are there any questions regarding this item? Will anyone be abstaining?
Question.
Questions?
There was only one response to the solicitation. That's why there's no comparison with the things.
It's from our GIS shortlist. So we put out a solicitation to shortlist contractors that are qualified for a variety of work, and then we'll go right to them if they have the expertise
Already pre-qualified. I just-
on our short list.
We have very short lists in each of the operations.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone abstaining? If voting approval, indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, it's approved. Number 9.
Number 9 is for the environmental operation group. This is for the household hazard waste collection and disposal at Brown Station Road Sanitary Landfill. This is the exercising of the first option year in the amount of $1,263,677.48 to ACB Environmental Service Inc. The goal on the contract is 18%. To date, the contractor is only achieving 2.4%. However, they're under corrective action plan through December of 2024 to meet the MBE goal.
We can entertain a motion
So moved.
and a second.
I'll second.
So any questions? Now, I would like to, maybe for the record, if you could explain a little bit more about the asterisk and the MBE participation, Ms. Crosby, I would appreciate. Or anyone.
Or Mr. Ford,
Sure.
you're more familiar with it.
So, this vendor is having difficulty meeting the MDE goal. There's been considerable consolidation in that industry. There's only really 3 viable firms in the marketplace right now. They were relying on temporary labor for their MDE goal. And the problem is the contract is not a full-time position or work, 3 days a week for this county. So they were having difficulty doing it. They were notified that they were in compliance. They worked with Mr. Barr to come up with a plan to come into compliance. Mr. Barr approved their plan, and so we recommended the extension contingent on that approval of that plan.
For the record, Mr. Barnes.
Barnes, I think Barnes.
Not a Tim.
Sorry,
Not a
Barnes.
Tim.
I don't mind about it, Tim.
Any other questions?
Look at next right there. He's a charmer, that one.
If no other question, does anybody plan on abstaining?
This is Brennan. I do have one other question.
Yes.
Is there a financial penalty or any financial harm to ACV for not meeting MBE goals in this contract?
Yes, we can assess MBE liquidated damages against the contract.
And that hasn't happened on this, at this point?
If they do not achieve the goal, we can assess those damages.
Okay. And how often do we do that? I mean, does that happen?
Most of the time when we send the non-compliance letter, the contractor make an effort to come into compliance, so we haven't used the liquidated damages.
Okay.
Good question. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous approval. And finally, Ms. Crosby.
Yes. Item 10 for the wastewater group. This is for Point Lookout State Park water and sewer system improvements. The contractor is Stormwater Management Solutions, Inc. The original contract amount was $8,999,990. This is a change order to that contract in the amount of $3,118,942.87. The goal on the contract is 19%. Currently, the company is achieving 3%. but the MBE portion of the work has not started.
Okay, can I entertain a motion for approval?
I just had a question. Are you all confident they're gonna meet the goal?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
Again, the MBE work is toward the back end of the contract. So yes,
okay,
people
thank
are
you.
ready, they'll be ready to go.
Okay, entertain a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Okay, any other questions? Does anyone plan on abstaining? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Unanimous approval. Thank you very much, Ms. Crosby. Yes.
May I follow up on that question about the storm drain?
Oh, yes.
Masonville.
Absolutely.
Plus 30 construction.
I think that box, this was your question.
Yes.
So the storm drain, the add-on work that we're including is just the compaction in the whip drain and the surcharge area where the storm drain will be located later, but it's all related to future terminal space development, which is part of, outside of our harbor development work. So that's hasn't been designed and it's separate from the facility itself, the DMCF.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And you're seeing a notice for the procurement notifications. And this is anything that is in the range of 25,000 to 200,000. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to highlight the MES is purchasing its second and third electric vehicles, a Ford Mach-E and a Ford F-150 crew cab. They'll be based out of headquarters, and we'll be checking them out for range and towing capacity and use. Not too many people have been stranded in the Bolt so far, but there have been a couple of emergencies. Range anxiety is real. But, I'm thankful to Mr. Patel and the fleet team for now that they're stacking up on lots, it's getting easier to purchase.
And if I may, I'll add a couple of things. We have a master plan to set up the 10 charging stations in the front of the parking lot, and the future plans for 20 more, because that won't be connected, but it'll be the infrastructure will be there, because as the state and everywhere else, they're being aggressive about acquiring EV vehicles. So we have a master plan. I hope to bring it to the board of directors that for approval, hopefully in September meeting. Meanwhile, since we are getting more, we are installing 2 charging stations, which will use the electricity from the building, because it is reaching the capacity now, so we cannot add any charging stations to the existing power lines. So we're gonna have the new BG will bring new power lines from the front. So just want to let you know, the whole thing, the plan, the price, everything. Very likely, I hope to bring it to your attention, for your approval in September, because the estimated time after we approve it is almost 1.5 years. Unless the supplies are getting better, then it's a different thing. Thank you.
Interesting. Thank you. Is this a 2-page slide? Nope. That's it. Okay. Legal report, Mr. Coleman.
Okay, I can have the next slide, please. I wanted to just let you all know that I was very honored to host the Attorney General at 2 MES facilities for a tour last week. I know most of you probably have not met my staff. On that picture, besides myself, next to me is Senior Assistant Attorney General Priscilla Carroll, the Attorney General. Pam Fuller, who functions both as as our paralegal, but also as the board clerk. She's on leave today. And then Assistant Attorneys General Eric Hartlout and Christy Fisher. As I said, we went with the Attorney General first to Midshore Landfill. We have that slide, please. Had an excellent tour and presentation by Tim Ford's group. And the Attorney General got to see, the great work that MES staff is doing there. Eric Frace did an excellent job answering the Attorney General's questions about a host of different issues related to the landfill and how MES works closely with mid-shore counties on that project. As we were joined by the Deputy Director of the agency, Dr. Glass, unfortunately was in transit, I think, that day for Mako. But the Attorney General did have a very good tour at Midshore. Tim Ford assures me he did not he did not have that bald eagle cage that flew over us. That was a natural phenomenon that occurred. There were unfortunate recommendations to the photographers that they should shoot the bald eagle, and then we quickly brought that back and photograph the bald eagle. And try the next slide, please. And not to be outdone, we did. They went down to Cambridge. The Attorney General, our staff, and a number of city officials joined us for a tour of the Cambridge wastewater treatment plant. Again, Don Reed and his staff were very welcoming. Did an excellent tour of the facility, and I think the Attorney General really got a great idea of what it's like to be on the front line of environmental protection. And our staff just did a tremendous job at both facilities. So thank you, Tim Barr and Tiff and all the folks working for you. And I can assure you as well that I did not coordinate my attire with the Attorney General. Coincidental. And that's really the legal report. We've not been sued since our last meeting.
That's good.
Sean, let me just add something to that. I talked to the Attorney General and his staff at Mako, and they again just reiterated what a great job the MES folks did, how much they enjoyed the tour. They thought it was a great success.
So now I won't be allowed out of my office for another 6 months.
And for those of you that are new to the board, generally speaking, we have group updates from each of the managing directors. And today we're going to start with environmental dredging and restoration. Ms. Dolinar.
Thank you. Next slide. I wanted to provide an update on the Cox Creek Dredge Material Containment Facility construction activities. And just for reference, this facility is one of 2 facilities that are designated for placement of dredged material from the Baltimore Harbor channels. Together with Masonville DMCF, the annual dredging demand for capacity in these 2 sites is a little over 500,000 cubic yards just from the federal maintenance dredging. And then if you add in the state and the private work, it's about 700,000 cubic yards of capacity needed each year. Last update was in November, and if we recall, we had almost gotten to the +60 elevation at the waterside dikes. I think we were getting ready to put the stone armor to raise it up to +60. But since then, the dike construction project is substantially complete, pending vegetation establishment, punch items and inspections. We've expanded all the way into the uplands, if you can see in the back, and that's all up to +60. We also might be adding some potential additional work to increase the cross dike, which separates the waterside and the upland dikes itself. And we'll increase it up to 40 feet, sloping up to 50 on the water side, and that'll give us more capacity to incorporate the next federal maintenance inflow So we can keep the inflow in the water side and maintain more use in the upland cell for later. So once these dikes are accepted by MDE Dam Safety, we'll have added 8 million cubic yards capacity of the project for a total of 14.8 million cubic yards. Next slide. This project's a $20 million project. NTP was issued in April 2021. So we've been at it for a while. And even though we're scheduled for completion in March 2024, we're substantially complete, significantly complete, even with the added work that we're in the approvals. Just for reference, the project included excavation of 1.5 million cubic yards of bar material within the upland area, which created some capacity, and the soil was cheaper for raising the dikes. And it was placed in 13,100 linear feet of perimeter. Next slide. And just quickly, here's a couple photos. This is the access road from the rear of our operations complex. So our team can access the upland area dike roads without having to traverse Kimbo Road, and saves time, and it also wearing and tearing on the tracked equipment. This is a temporary sediment basin that's being converted into a final stormwater pond that'll collect the rainfall from the southern, the southern portion of the upland dikes and also Kimbo Road. And then next is a slide, a photo of bank swallow nests, which I hadn't seen before, but anyway, they nested it into the Barrow area banks, and I guess they're a migratory bird. They arrive in April, they fledge in July, and then they fly off in August with a mass departure. But construction didn't seem to bother them. Slide. Just wanted to say, even during construction, this facility must remain open for federal maintenance inflow every year. And the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer Contractor Cashman completed the Brewerton Angle maintenance work this approximately 470,000 cubic yards of dredge material into Cox Creek. And this photo shows Cashman's unloading operations, just Cox Creek. Any questions?
Several months ago, we were fortunate enough to visit the Cox Creek facility, and it was tremendous. It's a really an incredible project. So for those of you new board members that have not seen it yet, maybe one of the future visits will be to go see the update. So, and I would recommend it. So it's worth it. Okay, Division Chief for Water Wastewater Operations.
If you're sure I was going to come in a minute, but just for the board, a few months ago, we had a chance to share with the board about these so-called forever chemicals, PFAS, and their cousins. And we talked about how they would be potentially impacting on wastewater operations. Today, I'm here with Tiff Bradshaw, who is the Operations Division Chief for Water Wastewater. And he's going to talk about how it will potentially impact our drinking water operations. Just as a way, a little bit of background about Tiff, he actually oversaw our operations at the Back River facility when we were there doing our task. And he is also a member of the EPA panel that gives input to EPA on the impact of PFAS from on the part of small utilities, and we deal with a lot of small utilities. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tiff and let him have his seat, and he can tell you all about the drinking water implications, possible implications. I get it.
Next slide, please. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about a topic that's become increasingly on the radar of those of us in the water wastewater group, and that is PFAS chemicals. They're also called, as Tim mentioned, forever chemicals. They've been used in industry for a long time, since the 1940s. They're in all types of cookware, stainless steel, nonstick cookware, waterproof clothing, Gore-Tex clothing, and also firefighting foams. They're called forever chemicals because they don't break down very easily over time. And they've been recently discovered in some of the water systems, and they can be potentially carcinogenic, so they're an increasing concern for us in water wastewater. Next slide, please. The good news is that there are 4 approved methods to remove these constituents from the wastewater. They are ion exchange, activated carbon, reverse osmosis, and nanofiltration. And these are all proven technologies that MES has experience with in the past. They should be very effective in removing PFAS from our drinking water supplies. All of these methods, they do have some increased operating costs, and they do create a concentrated waste stream that at some point will need to be disposed of. Next slide, please. I've been tracking with, the EPA has been following and studying PFAS for a long time. They are scheduled to finalize a maximum contamination level, MCL, for PFAS by the end of this year. They had a public comment period that closed back in May. The limits for PFOA and PFOS, which are the 2 main constituents of these PFAS chemicals, we're thinking that the EPA will come out with MCL to limit those to 4 parts per trillion. Just for a little context, 4 parts per trillion is a very, very small concentration. For an illustration, if you had an Olympic-sized swimming pool full of water and you had 1 drop of a pollutant, that's equal to 1 part per trillion. So these are very small concentrations that we're talking about here. There's 4 other constituents: PFHXS, PFNA, PFBS, and Gen X chemicals. Those are a little different. Those won't be limited to a 4 part per trillion MCL, but they will be put into a calculation called the hazard index. And I won't bore you with the formula, but the result from that calculation will have to be less than 1 to be in compliance with what we feel will be the EPA's limit. The MCL is scheduled to be effective in December 2026 if the EPA finalizes the rule in December of 23 as expected. But whenever they finalize it, it will be effective 3 years after the date that EPA finalizes it. And that will give municipalities and towns time to determine how they're going to treat it, determine how they're going to pay for the treatment and things like that before it becomes effective in their permit. Next slide, please.
I had a question on that last slide.
Yes, sir.
The PFOA and PFOS levels proposed in the rule to 4.0, or that's where you expect them to be in the final rule. Where are those today in the facilities that we manage and operate? And how much work is going to need to be done to bring that into compliance?
We're doing testing right now to find out where we are in our various facilities that we operate. So we're in the testing phase to find out just where we are.
Okay. That was the only question I had. I just wondered what type of mountain is going to be there for us to climb after the final rule comes out. And it sounds like we won't know until the testing is complete.
We're working our way through that now.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as MDE's limits, we're expecting that MDE will equal whatever EPA MCL will be. They have the ability, they could give us a more stringent limit, but we're thinking that MDE will just follow EPA with a 4 part per trillion limit. Some of the other impacts would be that additional equipment will need to be purchased and installed to achieve compliance. It's going to require additional monitoring. They will have to be also included in annual consumer confidence reports to let the public know what these chemicals, if these chemicals are in their water supply and what the concentrations are. And again, the disposal methods will have to be determined and budgeted for, and that's also going to be an additional cost. But we are monitoring the situation closely with EPA, and we will be prepared for doing whatever we need to do to make sure that we can be compliant in 2026 when the limits go into effect in their permits.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's very enlightening, and PFAS has been in it's a shame Mr. Tosi isn't here today following policy. PFAS has been in the news a lot lately because of the firefighting equipment and what Maryland is doing with our laws regarding that. So it's clearly an issue that we need to be taking seriously. And I'd also like to put in my own little public service announcement, my little PSA, please don't flush your old medicines, because our wastewater treatment plants are not, we do not treat those. So please dispose of them properly. Most sheriff and police officers or police departments have some sort of annual event and or a box where you can drop your old medicines, but do not flush them.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it.
CVS has a big box too.
Oh, good to know.
That's Safeway near my,
Yeah.
near our pharmacy.
Good. Yeah.
We have. This is a new one for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So today for the TES update, we have Heather Graves. She leads our team that helps support the Maryland Energy Administration work. She has not been here long, but has done an amazing job building that team out there, and she's going to talk about that and some of the work that they do.
Welcome.
Thank you. As Melissa said, my name is Heather Graves, and I am the team lead for the MES personnel who are on site supporting the Maryland Energy Administration. The Maryland Energy Administration is the state energy office. They care for all things energy related. This includes energy efficiency, clean energy, resiliency and microgrids, clean transportation and alternative fuels, and offshore wind development. Their mission is to promote clean, affordable, reliable energy and energy-related greenhouse gas emission reductions to benefit Marylanders in a just and equitable manner, which very closely aligns with the MES mission to enhance the environment for the benefit of the people of Maryland. MES began supporting MEA on site around 2010 with Fred Shokin, who is a historic preservation specialist. Federal and state agencies and recipients of their funding are required to perform a historic review, and Fred is the one who does that for MEA. One such building that underwent this review is MES headquarters for their solar panels. One of the most popular programs at MEA is the Clean Energy Rebate Program, also known as CERP. This program provides the incentives for Marylanders to purchase and install eligible renewable energy generating systems. This is for residential, which covers single family homes, apartments, and condominiums, as well as commercial, which is businesses, nonprofits, and other state agencies. Leslie Westervelt and Yvonne Thompson began supporting MEA on site about a year ago. They help with receiving paper and electronic applications, uploading them into the systems, reviewing them for completion, and most importantly, interacting with the applicants, either answering questions or with reaching out to them for missing information. This map is a very preliminary data representation of the popularity of the CERP program. You can see that at least one application comes in from every single county every year. It has a very wide reach. It was so popular that last fiscal year, the program had to close early due to exhausted funds.
And in fiscal year 2022, there was almost 4,000 solar PV awards alone. Another popular program is the Electric Vehicle Supply Equipment Rebate Program, also known as EVSE. If you want help with the electric vehicle purchase, I believe you need to talk to MDOT. But if you would like assistance with installing charging stations, this is the program. There was also the residential and commercial side for this as well. Caitlin Bergeron and Natalie Buscemi began at the end of March. Well, and in fact, Natalie received a customer response saying that she was a breath of fresh air in government. This map shows the EVSE residential awards, also showing the breadth of this program, which is, again, across the state of Maryland. Another popular program in that its funds were also exhausted last fiscal year. And in fiscal year 2022, there was almost 2,000 residential awards. Rounding out the team is myself and Catherine Katie Houlihan for the special program support. We provide support across the various sectors at MEA on their energy side, energy program side, through greenhouse gas emissions evaluation and data metrics and performance analysis, as well as coordinating the various federal funding opportunities that have come out of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. And it was Katie who created the map that's seen on this slide and the previous two slides. We also have additional operational and technical support that is provided by the various personnel here at MES headquarters. They provide a range of services from underwriting analysis for the Jane E. Watton Loan Program, providing support for the Solar Incentives Task Force, and then we also have a couple upcoming tasks that we're still waiting on scope for. So a wonderful team over at MEA, and we're looking forward to our work with them. Any questions?
What is the electric modeling analysis there on the bottom of that slide?
We're still getting the scope for that. But I will make a note and circle back to you once I get more details.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Very insightful. Mr. Ford, we've seen you once or twice.
Yeah. Enthusiasm about
It's nice to see you again.
Oh, it's him again. Welcome, and this month we figured we'd give an update on the ECI cogen facility upgrade project. For those of you that don't know, MES began operating this facility in 1989. It is a 4 megawatt combined heat and power system that generates both heat and steam for the Eastern Correctional Institution, a medium security prison. For the BPSCS folks, it was absolutely paramount that they had an uninterrupted electrical power system and thermal resources. They use those steam for both heat and for food and laundry. And electricity is critical, obviously, for security purposes and lighting. And so have an interrupted service presents a clear danger for the folks that work there and for the inmates that are housed there. So it's imperative that we have an uninterrupted source of power. So they, in their wisdom, when they designed this facility, considering where they were and the threat for instance, hurricane and previous history with the electrical generator utility there, they decided to design and build their own power plant. MES has operated again since 1989. Originally, this plant burned wood chips, generate heat for the boilers to generate the heat for the steam, which then in turn generated power for the facilities. And now, after nearly 30 years, we no longer burn wood there. We have We have begun converting the boilers that are there now to natural gas. An earlier project was to install, we didn't install, that's another slide, we didn't install the pipeline, but we entered into a contract with the service provider there to purchase natural gas, and in return they constructed a pipeline. And again, that's a future, another slide point here. So what do we have? We have 38 million BTU per hour boilers there, 2 of them. We have 2 1.9 megawatt steam turbine generators, one of them which we're going to be pulling down and upgrading. It's just something we could do every 5, 6, 7 years. And then we have 2 1 megawatt emergency diesel gen sets. So the facility is set up so that they can shed power in the event of an emergency, so that power is directed towards the most secure requirements, and it's automatically set up. So we may provide 4 megawatts of power normally, but we have the ability to provide 2 megawatts, which gives the facility additional security. Next slide. So what do we do there? We have 23 staff members at the cogen. I don't need to read all of those off individually for you, but they are very specific types of tasks, from engineers to electricians, boiler operators that are licensed boiler operators, and mechanics that are skilled at maintaining this type of equipment. What you see there is an electrician. You see he's suited up. That is medium voltage equipment. See, medium is not over the wire. It's extremely dangerous. You have to be suited up for it. The electricity can arc. You can leave where it is. Unfortunately, at one point we had a contractor who was killed at that facility. So it's skilled work, and you have to be licensed, if not licensed, certified to do that work. Operations are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, regardless of the weather or whatever else is happening. Again, we provide power for a medium security prison. Next slide. So we produce 280 million pounds of steam there. We generate 14,000 megawatt hours of electricity, 70 million British thermal units of energy to the correctional facility. Basically, we keep the lights on. So we're in the middle of an upgrade. We previously had upgraded the control systems there. That was in 2017 to about 2020. We replaced the utility yard, complete upgrade there. The transformers were all replaced. We went underground with the feeds there, so they were overhead and now underground, so it's additional security, and there's redundancy built into the system. Next slide. This brings us to the fuel conversion. As I said, we were primarily mil-spec wood chips, and we use number 2 fuel oil as backup secondary fuel. We, again, in 2019, awarded a contract to Chesapeake Utilities to purchase natural gas, which in turn led to the installation of that pipeline from basically Salisbury down through Princess Anne. That was a priority of then Governor Hogan. The idea was that installing natural gas or making natural gas available in the poorest county in the state would lead to economic development. We are partnered with University of Maryland Eastern Shore as the anchors for that fuel purchase agreement. And so the boilers are now being converted to fire natural gas. You see that top right picture there that you see we've broken down the boilers. Funny, our operator has been there for 30 years, looked at that and said, oh, now I know what they look like inside. So it's been an interesting project for us. That's fire brick around the boiler there. But anyway, I think that might be it.
This is Brendan. I had a couple of quick questions on that last slide. Is this plant interconnected to PJM? And is this plant participate in wholesale market operations at all?
No, we don't export electricity. We
Is there,
we import the balance that we need. We have a 4 megawatt and they use slightly more than 4 megawatts.
okay. And do you expect that to change at all with gas boilers?
No.
Okay.
The thermal is what drives the total energy produced, the thermal demand. And we haven't added any additional boilers.
And then with the conversion, was there any change in the capacity?
Well, they become more efficient, but no.
Okay. Okay. I had some other questions, but I think I might ask offline.
Sure.
They're pretty in the weeds and I don't want to take up a lot of time.
No problem. There's another project that's partnered with this, and that is we're also going to just let the contracts to convert the propane equipment inside the facility to natural gas. We had previously run the internal pipeline from the public access point internally within the prison system to both our power plant and to the gate at the prison. So now this next contract will take that pipeline internally within the prison and then convert their existing propane equipment to natural gas. That's done concurrent with this conversion. It's being done concurrent with this conversion. Any other questions?
Thank you, and thank you to all 4 of our presenters today. It's nice to have new faces join us. And we're very thankful for those of you that are recurring. That was a slight. Okay, is there any old or new business anyone would like to bring up at this point? And if not, I do have 2 announcements. The first is that the annual board training will take place on Friday, September 15th, 2023 at MES, or if you need a virtual link we can accommodate. And the final announcement is that our next regular board meeting is Thursday, September 29th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. 28th, sorry. Okay, 2 days in front of me, 28th, September 28th.
It'll be a long one.
Judge?
No. Thank you.
Okay, all right, if there's nothing else, we can adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning.
Thank you for being very.
Thank you.